What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall markets. I'm also going to break down some big news involving President Trump's tariffs and what's happening with Jerome Powell, as he's going to be giving a speech very soon in just a couple of hours. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. Anyways, as far as the market's going, we did dip a bit because of the fact that we saw an increase in some tariffs on China. But despite that news coming out, I want to make it very clear that the market is still trying to base here. We have kind of like a double bottom forming on SPY, and we want to see this thing get back above 535 to really start pushing. Now, if we don't hold around this like 529 to 530 area, we should be dumping even more. And if we do hold this, we could try to see some kind of rebound move, but I want to see us reclaim 535. Also, on the daily chart, we do have a gap to fill, so we'll see if we get that gap fill or not, but that's going to depend on Jerome Powell. So I'm going to talk more about the news first, and I'll break down what's happening with the charts over the next couple of minutes. Let's first talk about these tariffs. So there's been a lot of fear about how President Trump has imposed a 245% tariff on Chinese imports and why this is leading to lots of fear for the markets. And I completely understand that there's a lot of tension right now. President Trump mentioned that he thinks that China has disrespected the US, and China is saying they want to negotiate if President Trump shows them respect. So it's kind of like, a lot of tensions going back and forth between these countries, between the US and China, and that's causing some fear for the markets. Now, despite that, let me just clarify that the tariffs that President Trump has imposed are not necessarily fixated at one rate. They're different depending on the products. And let me just show you this based off this chart right here. So if you look at the tariffs, right, based off what we're seeing from data from the New York Times, which is actually based off what we saw from the White House, syringes and needles, they basically have a 245% tariff imposed, but that's not for every single product, right? Not every product is going to be charged the same thing. Lithium ion batteries have a 173% tariff imposed, and then other products have about 140 to 160% or above. But then it goes down for like car wheels, it's at 73%, semiconductors at 70%. Then we have laptops, and I think other electronic devices at 20%. So that's something that's worth noting. These are the tariffs for particular products, right? The tariffs depend on the product. It's not like every product is going to be charged to 45%. So keep that in mind. That's what we're looking for, at least right now, according to reports. That I just want to clarify this. I know that all the headlines scream to 45%, but that's not for every product. But nonetheless, guys, it still is causing some fear, and the market is still kind of like showing more volatility as a result. Now, moving forward, I do want to mention that despite where the market is, as we're trying to hold support, we do have Jerome Powell giving a speech at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For those who are asking me, you could watch it live on YouTube. If you guys look at like AP or other sources, you could actually see it. And basically, Jerome Powell is going to give us some insights at the Chicago Economic Club. So he might be speaking about inflation. He'll talk about what's happening with the overall economy, what his views are so far. He might be asked about more potential cuts, and we'll have to see what he ends up saying, which could cause a lot of volatility. So we'll see what Jerome Powell says. We know when he speaks, typically the market moves a lot, but it's very simple to kind of dissect how this is going to be affecting the markets. So the daily does show we have this gap over here to fill all the way up to about 537. But just to be very frank, when we go to our 4-hour time frame, SPY is technically in this range right over here. So from what I see, what's good about SPY is the fact that there's a double bottom, and so far we're trying to make higher lows. We need to hold that 530 area on SPY. If this zone holds, we're still technically making higher lows, and we could still see a nice bounce. But if we lose 530, we're looking for a dip towards like 525. So keep those levels in mind as the main supports. Now, if you're a bull on SPY, you want to see us reclaim 535. If we reclaim that, I'm expecting that gap filled and eventually 540 to be retested. So we got to reclaim 535 to really see some kind of bounce. As of right now, SPY has been trading between 535 and 530 for the majority of the day. Let's just hope we do see buyers step in. Whether or not they step in, of course, depends on what Jerome Powell says during his speech, so keep that in mind. He speaks at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in just a couple of hours from the time I'm recording this, so keep that in mind. SPY is technically in a range, but I hope we get some kind of balance move, especially as we see some more of these buyers potentially step in. So we'll see if we can reclaim 535 to bounce or not. It all depends on Jerome Powell. For the QQQ, we did dip a bit, but what's good about the QQQ is just like SPY, we're actually trying to make higher lows. So the QQQ had a low at 408, then our low was at 432. Then we came up to about 447, so we're making higher lows on the chart. We could even redraw this line like this. It doesn't really matter too much depending on if we hold this or not. So if we're bearish, you want to see us lose 440, basically lose 440. That's going to be a bad sign. If you want to be a bull, you want to see us reclaim 453 if that breaks. I think we push for basically 460. So watch those levels between 453 and basically 447. So far, we're trying to hold 447, which is a good sign. So we'll have to see if this holds. Can we break 453 to bounce? It could go either way, but it depends on Jerome Powell. We're still range bound for now, so give it some time, but there is potential nonetheless. For the Russell 2000, we're also range bound. If we lose 184, we're looking for a dump closer to like 182 or below. If we break 188, we're looking for the 190s. We're in the middle right now, so give it some time to develop. For ES, we're like trying to make higher lows. We're trying to hold support right now, but keep in mind if we lose 5300, we're looking for a dump back down towards 5250 or below. And as long as we're above 5300, we're looking to see what happens with this blue trend line. If this holds, if we hold this trend line, we're looking for an attempt to bounce back up towards the 5400s. So we'll just have to see how it goes. So 5400 ends up breaking, then we're looking for an attempt to bounce for basically 5450 plus. I want to see us get back above at least 5400 to bounce. That's going to be above all of our EMAs right over here. So we got to reclaim that. Otherwise, we're still technically in a range right here. Let's see if 5400 is reclaimed, and we'll give this some time. Overall, we're doing a good job at holding up nonetheless, but like I said before, it depends on Jerome Powell. What is good about ES is this. We could just ignore all the lines and just look at it like this. The good news I have for you guys is that we have this double bottom on ES. We had this low we first had a low at basically the 4800s. Then we had a low at around 5150. Now we're trying to make a low at the 5350. So we're trying to make higher lows so far. We'll just have to see if we hold. And if we do, there could be some kind of bounce move coming. So we'll see if Jerome Powell keeps us a pump or not. For NQ, we have a double bottom. We're making higher lows. If we manage to break past 18,738, we're looking for a bounce back up towards this gap fill towards 19,000. If we lose, however, 18,500, we're looking for a dump back down towards 18,250. So it could go either way as we're just kind of trading sideways. So we'll see if we reclaim 18,738. So give it some time. Nonetheless, we're doing a good job of trying to hold up. On Bitcoin, we're also forming an inverse head and shoulders right here. So we have like a left shoulder, head and then a right shoulder. I want to see us break 86,000 to push higher. If we lose 83,000, we're looking for a dump, but I think there's potential in this at least nonetheless. For Tesla, we're also kind of consolidating right here. One thing that's good is that it's trying to hold 247, and we're still technically above that, but we need to get back above like 252 at the very least to see some kind of push to the upside, a bigger push. As of right now, we're range bound. We're going back and forth between 240 to 244 as our support zone. And our resistance is going to be around 255 to 260, going back and forth pretty much for the last couple of days. So we're holding support. We're actually doing a good job at holding above 247, but I would like to see us get back above 252 to see some buyers defend. Like I said before, it depends on what Jerome Powell says. That's going to be a big factor for the whole markets. For others out there, we have Nvda, which is technically kind of weak. We called out 103 as our potential targets, but if you zoom out like this, what you'll see is that basically we still have an inverse head and shoulders like pattern. In order for this to pan out, you want to see us bounce off 103 and get back above 107. If 107 is reclaimed, we could be pushing for like the 110s. If 103 fails, still we could be jumping to about 100. So we'll have to see if 107 is reclaimed as we have an inverse head and shoulders potentially forming. So we'll see how it goes. For Oh, and by the way, let me just clarify. In case we lose 103, we're going to be jumping to 100 or below on Nvidia. We got to hold 103. If we do hold it, we could try to get back above 107 to bounce. So let me just clarify that. For Apple's kind of weak here. We got to see if we get back above at least 200. If not, we're looking for 197.5 as the resistance right here. If that's not reclaimed either, we could be dipping back down towards 195. So keep that in mind, as 195 could be a potential target as we start to dip. So please be very mindful of that. It's still showing some weakness. Coinbase is showing strength off the inverse head and shoulders, but we got to get back above 180 to really push for the 190s. If we lose 168, we could be dipping lower, but overall the inverse head and shoulders remains, and then 180 plus is a very strong possibility. On Amazon, we're technically making lower highs. We're actually getting rejected right here. We'll see if we end up reclaiming 180 or not. Otherwise, we're still continuing to fall. We're looking for 175, and we'll see what the reaction happens to be. Same thing with Meta. We're showing some weakness. We're going to be looking at this support right where we're at, around 505. If that fails us, we're looking for 500. We'll see if we bounce or not. For Microsoft, we also have an inverse head and shoulders like pattern. We want to see if this reclaims basically 381. If it does, we're looking for a bounce. If not, we could be looking for 370. So we'll see how it goes off this inverse head and shoulders. I do see potential to dip lower if we can't reclaim 379, by the way. So look at 375 as support. If not, we could be dipping towards 370. For Google, we also have an inverse head and shoulders. If we end up failing right here at 152, we could be dumping lower, but we got to reclaim 160 to bounce. So there's an inverse head and shoulders here. I want to see us get back above 160. If that breaks, we're looking for a push higher. If we lose 152, we could turn more bearish, so just be very careful. We'll see if support holds. Overall, the setup remains, but we have to give this some time. The market is showing some resilience as we're starting to shuffle here. Nothing's guaranteed yet until we hear what Jerome Powell has to say. So get ready for his speech at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You guys could look this up on YouTube to watch it yourselves. I might not be available during then, so I would recommend that for those who are asking. You guys could watch it on YouTube. Just look up his speech live, and you guys could find it on AP or other sources. Thank you for listening. Have a good day, and I'll be back very soon with another update in just a couple of hours. Thank you for listening, and peace out.